Kent Hughes never stops us. He is at the Hlinka Gretzky Cup, and he gave an interview to a couple of panelists revealing some more details on picking Ivan Demidov and Juraj Slafkovsky. We're going to get into everything he had to say, plus an article from Marc Dumont at Montreal Hockey Now not only says that he believes a Kirby Dach type trade is coming, but how some Habs prospects are likely going to be gone from the system. That plus an awesome note on Jacob Fowler, all coming up on this episode of Habs Digest. And we're going to start with Jacob Fowler. Oh no, I forgot to bring the new chapters in, so I'm not going to show the chapters. I downloaded them, they're all good to go, but we're just going to get straight into the Fowler stuff, Jesse. You know, there's a rush to get this video ready, but I wanted to start with something he said. This is from NHL.com. As always, all articles used are going to be linked down below. He said, I think my game got a lot calmer this year if you kind of watch my progression. And turning toward the end of the season, when it came time for the Hockey East Championships in the regional end of the Frozen Four, I felt way more calm, way more comfortable. Playing in the National Championship didn't feel like it was the biggest game of the season, which looking back, that couldn't have been a better feeling. And not only that, Jeff Gorton had this to say as well. I believe this was a while ago, but I could be mistaken. He said, he's much fitter. He's quicker off the ice. Our trainers are all saying at development camp this year, like from one year to the next, how much his body has changed. It's amazing. Everything you ask him to do, he's gonna do. Jesse, I'm getting almost giddy reading these quotes about Jacob Fowler. We already knew he had the incredible skill, but to combine it with this incredible calmness that is rare to come by, maybe not so much for goalies, and him improving his athleticism from one year to the next so drastically has me so excited.
For sure. When you have the skills, but also the willingness to really listen to your development staff and do what they're asking to do, you really got the makings of a complete goalie, right? Because we know with Jacob Fowler, he's got those game-saving, type of stops in his game. That mental game is strong. The athleticism is there, right? But just the one things that are kind of missing is maybe that a little bit more those calmer mechanics from time to time in his game and nutrition. And he's doing exactly that. But like some things like nutrition you kind of work on, and other things like being calmer in the net, that just comes from experience, right? And it's so nice to hear, Jacob Fowler speaking, in his first year in the NCAA, he was able to bring his team to the championship game. Just imagine what he can do with some experience, right? I think that that's the key word when we're discussing Fowler and his development here is experience. He said, once I got to the NCAA championship game, I wasn't even nervous. Like it didn't even rattle me, as we heard Jeff Gorton say as well. So that's some huge, amazing news, right, from him, because we know he's coming to Montreal, where the pressure is higher than anywhere else in the NHL. The Bell Center gets louder than anywhere else. So having somebody that is just getting calmer and calmer as they get more of that experience, you have to feel bodes very well for the Montreal Canadiens net in the future.
Yeah, and not only does he have this calmness about him, he also has that fire to be better than everyone else. We saw that come out in his draft interview, right? When he was saying, like, I've always been underestimated. He's gone through a ton of adversity as a goalie with everyone overlooking him at every stage. The one thing that I think, as weird as it is to say, and maybe it'll never come, but the one thing I'd like to see is like a big slump from him, even if it's just a few games. See how he responds to it. Because I think that also is very telling. But the thing is, he might just be so good, he rarely faces that. And honestly, with the adversity that he's faced so far in his journey, I don't imagine there'll be any kind of problem. Loving what I'm hearing from Jacob Fowler, and I'm sure you guys do too. But we'll move on to the next topic. I don't have the fancy graphics today, guys, apologies, but I want to bring up something very interesting that Marc Dumont, Montreal Hockey Now article linked down below, had to say as he was talking about, now, Jesse, as we're getting into the next season, there's a lot of stuff with our prospects, not so much Jacob Fowler this year, but some other lower tier guys that might just not make the cut. The first thing he said is we have not yet received confirmation that Ty Smilanich, because we did get the confirmation the other day from Rhett Pitlick not being on the team. Now, Ty Smilanich, well, he might be allowed to walk. It's not been confirmed, but given his results the past few seasons, it's difficult to suggest he's going to get a contract. He's 22. He was added to the prospect pool in a trade that sent Sherratt to the Florida Panthers. And to expand on that, he said, beyond the 50 contract limit that Montreal has, the Habs need to add players with a well above average result at minimum. And even then, there's some guys like Rhett Pitlick who had a solid season but couldn't convince Kent Hughes. And he ends the article off with saying, given the abundance of young players in the organization, there's a decent chance Hughes will want to leverage their quantity into quality if the opportunity arises by means of another Kirby Dach type trade. And I think it's almost a certainty at this point, Jesse. There's just too many guys and not enough contract spots. There have been so many draft picks over the past few years that are all intending to either make Montreal or make Laval use up one of those 50 spots. Something got to be coming, but it's a good problem to have. And the fact that we're looking now and saying, well, if you're even average, we're probably going to have to cut you, it's kind of ridiculous.
It's a good problem to have, and you kind of want to get ahead of this all the same. Great article here, right? Because we got 12 picks coming next year, and I believe it kind of forces the Habs' hand, Kent Hughes' hand, kind of in a good way, right? To actually package, make those type of trades, right? Whether it's a Kirby Dach or an otherwise type of deal, right? We know some deals are kind of bubbling, which might actually involve this, right? You'd have to feel that obviously we have so many prospects, but our biggest thing is really on defense right now. At least that's where the biggest need, where we kind of need to take some action, right? To kind of give us some players, right? Because we're just going to end up losing so many. And that's the nice part about having like such a big prospect pool is unfortunately you are going to lose some players. Even like Pitlick didn't have a terrible year last year, right? But again, the bars went up. So the good part about that is it really allows you to really pick and choose who you're giving those ELCs to as well. So, really going to allow Kent to really have the flexibility to make the best possible decisions, because now that we have that quality, it kind of allows us to use that quantity a little bit more to cash in on some roster players.
Yeah, exactly. And, not every team is going to be in the position to just say, give me a bunch of prospects for a good prospect, like this kind of thing. But depending on the situation, they might, right? A guy who's a little further along, you might want to take on some volume of guys with a little bit of promise to give up your guy that's a bit too far along for you, that has maybe a bit more. Again, we saw that in a Dach type trade. And while the Newhook trade was sort of that, again, draft picks. So something is going to come. We always talk about this, but again, it's just every single day, especially now that Kent was spotted after, what, a 2-day vacation? He's spotted at the Lincoln Gretzky Cup. People are already speculating he's making his next move. You're seeing him. They're planning something. He's getting sneaky with it, but again, good problem to have. It does suck to see these prospects go, like Red Pitlick and like probably Ty Smilanic, but it is what it is at the end of the day. Montreal is now holding their prospects to a very high standard, and I don't think that's a negative thing for anyone. Final topic, though, wanted to get into this. Of course, Kent Hughes was interviewed at the Hlinka Gretzky Cup, and he had some amazing things to say about Demidov and Slafkovsky. So I'm going to bring this one up here about Demidov first, and we'll get into Slav a bit later, but I wanted to start with this. We interviewed him talking about Demidov before the draft, and I was blown away by his maturity, his confidence without arrogance. He was just a very impressive kid. And I just bring this up, Jesse, because we all love Demidov, and we all knew, there he is, we all knew that he kind of had maybe this kind of confidence. He appeared in Columbus's behind-the-scenes video today on their YouTube channel, where he got to talk to Don Waddell, and I saw a comment saying, meeting Don Waddell must have made him so happy to be selected by Kent Hughes. I don't want to be slandering Don Waddell, but regardless, again, we talk about it every single day, it feels like, but that confidence without cockiness. And combine that with the fact that everyone seems to love Demidov. He's a happy person. He's a funny guy. Teammates love him. He has a drive to get better. And he is just purely confident, not cocky at all. That kind of personality is very rare, especially for a guy his age. And I feel like we said all the same things about Slafkovsky.
But this comes from Kent Hughes, Jeff Gordon, and the vision that they wanted for this team. They have a certain archetype. They have a certain vision. And as we're able to see with recent picks, they're quite not willing to to flex on that. They have their certain standards, and that's the type of player. And it's so right to get those deja vu type of vibes from Demidov, from Slav, right? Because both players that have stars written all over them, but as well such high character individuals, which is totally right to say that it's not normally such a tandem that we see all the time. And we're really blessed in Montreal to be able to have that right now. Not just us, but the players as well. Cole, Caufield, and Nick Suzuki, they were hitting the links recently, and they were asked about this, draft pick as well, right? And Cole Caufield, who needs no invitation to get excited most of the time, is already over the moon when he was asked about this pick, right? He said, everybody in the organization is fired up about this. Like, we've been watching highlights, and you should be excited about this guy. And if you're Cole Caufield, another skilled player, knowing you got an offensive dynamite player in Demidov coming over, it has to make you excited. It's just about the future of this team and everything else. But again, that he's just bringing so many intangibles off the ice as well is really the complete package here for the Habs.
This team has so much camaraderie, and that's one thing that keeps them all together. Like, how often have we seen videos of all the players hanging out together on and off the ice everywhere? Like, I know a lot of teams have that kind of stuff, but we're seeing it on social media. We're seeing guys at people's weddings and like all this. Like, these guys are all buddies, and it works super well. And one of the guys, Jesse, that's very good buddies with all these guys, and I'm sure is going to be a good friend of Demidov's, is Juraj Slafkovsky. And I kind of alluded to it with that first quote talk when I said, we've heard about this with Slav. But this is what Kent had to say about that. He said, we were confident again from the interview process with him being Slafkovsky, that he just had a maturity. He'd been away from home since he was 14, taking care of himself. Juraj wants to be good. He wants to be the best version. He knows he's not there yet, and he wants to impact the game. It's not just about his game, it's about our game. And that's what will always impress us about him. And again, going back to this Jesse, this draft interview thing, the qualities they see in him, and Kent went on to say later in this interview, well, I think just a couple seconds later, like, that stuff we saw in that draft interview with Slafkovsky, we still see it today. And that's what gets me even more excited about Demidov, because not only is it a personality trait, a bad organization can maybe get you to flip that kind of stuff, but they're drafting these guys and they're really reinforcing those qualities they want to see in the players, and to have examples of guys who exhibit that on a day-to-day basis, with whether it's Suzuki or Caufield or Guhle or Xhekaj or whoever it is going to be great news for not only Demidov, not only Slafkovsky, but the whole organization going forward.
And being so consistent again is key, right? That Slav is still that same person. And Kent Hughes was asked, he said like an 18-year-old Kent Hughes, like he wouldn't have even handled these interviews like as well as a Demidov or a Slav, even though I'm sure an 18-year-old Kent Hughes was very sharp all the same, right? Like that's some big praise. And I think not enough kind of goes into obviously like the amount of training, and obviously, you know, there's some very well-raised individuals, right? Slafkovsky and Demidov to be 18 years old when they're drafted and exuding such tremendous character at the same time. Not to say that they can't get fired up sometimes, but you want that. That's the good thing. Right, that's for sure. You know, so just an amazing culture, right? That it just seems like Kent Hughes isn't willing to sacrifice on. You have to wonder if that'll kind of key into the type of trades and acquisitions, you know, as we kind of lead in the future, but we're definitely trusting him on that.
I mean, hey, we heard about that Xhekaj offer. I'm sure a lot of us heard about that, and then not something, I mean, I feel like we've ran that topic pretty dry, but I think there might be a reason they didn't pull off that trade, for maybe some reason that you just highlighted there, Jesse, but who knows? Let us know your thoughts down below on all this stuff. The Fowler stuff is super exciting, but not to mention Kent Hughes himself speaking about these picks, how excited he is. Well, that excitement is definitely spread to us as well, because that'll do it for this episode of Habs Digest. If you enjoyed, leave a like, comment, subscribe to the channel. Thank you all for watching every single day. I'm Josh Gosse, my co-host Jesse Poirier. We'll catch you in the next one.